Hello, I'm Maximilian Dixon. I am the Hazards and Outreach Program Supervisor here at Washington State Emergency Management Division. And also presenting is Samantha Borth. She is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Seattle office. And today we're going to be talking to you about how to get alerted for tsunamis and what to do when a tsunami is on the way. So first, to understand a difference between distant and local tsunamis. A distant tsunami, you're not going to feel the earthquake. The first waves will arrive in greater than 3 hours from when the earthquake happened. Your warning must be distributed either through an alert process or through natural signs. There will be less inundation, there will be less drastic currents in the water, and also less severe impacts to the coastline and maritime infrastructure. For a local event, which is typically felt through an earthquake, this is your warning sign, the wave arrival times will be less than 3 hours from when the earthquake happens. The earthquake, again, is your primary warning. There will be more inundation, potentially higher waves, faster and more dangerous currents, and also significantly higher impacts along the coastline and to maritime infrastructure. So for an example, as a distant source tsunami threat, our greatest risk really is from Alaska. They have a lot of events, as you may have seen before, many events in the last 200 years. But also, if you can see on the left here, the higher the red bar is, the higher potential there is for the wave heights to hit Washington coastline. And you can see on the right side, you can see the darker color. It signifies more intense currents and potentially higher wave energy that's going to be hitting the Washington state. And then you can see that it kind of fans out and you have less intense waves as you go into other areas on the Pacific Ocean. So here again, from Alaska event, which is our worst case distant source event for Washington state, the waves could arrive in less than 4 hours. It's important to know the natural tsunami warning signs. So obviously, if you feel strong shaking, if you're near the coast, obviously you want to drop cover and hold on and get to high ground. That shaking is your warning. Also, if you happen to be along the shoreline and you see a sudden rise, i.e. a wall of water coming towards you, or the rapid receding of the ocean, then fishes flopping on the ground, right? So don't get the fish. These are signs that a tsunami is coming your way. Also, if you hear a loud, unusual roar, like a jet plane or a train coming from the ocean, these are all signs of a potential tsunami. So you want to get to high ground or inland as quickly as possible. It's important to understand the different tsunami alerts. We will go over these a few times during these presentations, but it's really important for you to understand the differences between these. So we'll start with an information statement. That's in the green color. Essentially, this is letting people know, hey, there was an earthquake out in the ocean floor or somewhere that people are concerned about a potential tsunami. It'll tell you that, hey, there's really no expected impact, no need to worry. And that's just letting people know that, yes, there was an event, here's where the earthquake was, but no need to worry about a tsunami. For a watch, that's a yellow, essentially, there could be a tsunami. It's possible, but they don't have enough information yet to verify whether a tsunami is on the way or not. But this is a really important step to take for the watch, is to get prepared. Listen to and stay tuned to your NOAA weather radio stations, to local TV or radio, and go on Tsunami.gov. Get your go bag ready, be ready to evacuate if that becomes necessary. For an advisory, orange level, this essentially tells you that a tsunami is on the way. The wave is anywhere from 1 to 3 feet high, and you're going to have strong and dangerous currents. You're going to have some waves that impact the shoreline. So essentially, stay out of the water and stay away from the shore. For the warning, that's your highest and most dangerous alert level. That's in red. That means that a tsunami is on the way. It's dangerous, it's imminent. The waves are going to be higher than 3 feet. There's going to be powerful flooding, currents, and this is extreme danger, which means you need to get to high ground and inland immediately.
All right, so as part of the National Weather Service, we have two National Tsunami Warning Centers. The first one is the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center located in Honolulu, Hawaii. And the second one is the National Tsunami Warning Center located in Palmer, Alaska. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center is in charge of the international, it's basically the International Warning Center for 26 member countries, including Hawaii. And the National Tsunami Warning Center in Alaska will issue all the tsunami products for North America. So Alaska, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and California. So running through the process of issuing a tsunami warning. So first off, an earthquake is going to occur. That is going to be detected by the seismic sensors, and that will alert the tsunami warning centers. The earthquake will then initially be located and sized automatically. Information will then be compared to the historical database, and then the tsunami warning or alert messages will be disseminated within minutes. And so an important thing to note is those first 5 steps of this process are going to happen anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. So then steps 6 and 7 are going to be updated as necessary. So 6, you're going to monitor, so the Tsunami Warning Center is going to monitor the tide gauges and the dart buoys to confirm whether a wave was generated. And if no wave was recorded on any of the tide gauges, the warning is then going to be canceled. So I'm going to run through the schematic of how of the process of how a tsunami alert or warning is disseminated. So as mentioned previously, so the first thing that's going to happen is the earthquake. So the seismometer is going to pick up on that, and that is going to get sent via satellite to the Tsunami Warning Center. And that's where this information is going to get processed that we saw on the previous slides, steps 1 through 5. And then within minutes, that's going to get sent via satellite to the National Weather Service, the State Emergency Operations Center, and the US Coast Guard. So if that is a tsunami warning, that is automatically going to get generated via the WEA, and that's going to be the Wireless Emergency Alert. The state EOC will then send that to the emergency alert system and to the local EOC, who will then activate the sirens. The National Weather Center is then, the National Weather Service is then going to send that out to the National Weather Service, the local office. And that local office, like we are here in NWS Seattle, we are then going to put that on the NOAA weather radio or the emergency alert system. And lastly, the Coast Guard is also going to get this information, and they are going to disseminate that further to mariners out on the coast. So tsunami alert dissemination. Tsunami alerts occur for any type of tsunami event. These are most important during distant source events because the earthquake is not going to be your natural first warning because you're not going to feel it. We do typically stress to make sure that you have more than one way to receive a warning and to know how to receive these warnings and make sure that you're informed. So the first alerting system, the NOAA weather radio, is basically a warning alarm feature that kind of acts just like a fire alarm. So they are set to go off and to interrupt. They are not just for tsunami alerts. They are also going to alert for winter storms, high winds, for major weather events such as a tornado warning. We have 16 stations here in Washington, and you need to make sure that you program your radio to your area. And this is kind of a nice feature, but the new models are programmed to only sound for a warning. So you're not going to have multiple weather updates alert in the middle of the night. You're just going to have the important warnings where you have to take action or stay informed. The Emergency Alert System, or the EAS, was originally designed for the president to address the nation in times of a disaster. These get activated for life-threatening weather events or natural hazards. This is also used by the law enforcement, so for Amber Alerts. So if you hear that steady EAS tone or see the scrolling message on your TV when you're watching TV for a tsunami watch or a warning, this is basically telling you that you need to take action or you really need to pay attention. And the Wireless Emergency Alert System, so that's the WEA. This is used only when when a tsunami warning is issued. So you will receive this message once, and it will be one message. So there are a few caveats. So the participation in WIA by wireless carriers is widespread, but it is only voluntary. So you're going to want to make sure to check with your wireless carriers. And then even if you have a WIA enabled device, you may not receive a WIA if your device is roaming or if you're in a service area where the provider is not offering a WIA. In addition, so if there's any tsunami event that is going to occur along the Washington coast, the media is also going to receive these National Tsunami Warning Center alerts, and they're going to start broadcasting them. So you're going to notice that they're going to interrupt your regularly scheduled programs, and they're going to keep you updated on the latest information. So the example on the right is just a picture or graphics for what the Como News here in Seattle would do. So they would make sure that they're keeping the public updated. And so even when they get local insight and imagery, they're going to start showing people the hazards of what's happening around the region. Tsunami.gov. So this is a really great website. It will visually display where earthquakes occur and their alert levels. So if you go to the site, you'll see this map pop up. And what you're going to want to look for is for any messages for the US West Coast, British Columbia, or Alaska. And so right under that map, it's going to list the last 40 messages right underneath there. And that's the newest message is going to pop up on the top. So you can click that and view any information, any alert that was sent with that. And in addition to that, it has a great variety of information that you can gather from the site. Whether that's exercises or anything for outreach activities or educational resources, or just if you're interested in the tsunami program in general and how it works. There are two caveats though. This will not be useful for an intercoast tsunami event. So if we have an earthquake along the Cascadia subduction zone, and it tends to have a history of crashing during big events, but this is one of the reasons why we want to stress that it's good to have multiple ways to receive a warning. And another way that you can stay informed, so you can send a text message to 40404, and with the following text, follow NWS, and that's a space NTWC. So this doesn't always work, but if it does work, it should send you a text message anytime the Tsunami Warning Center sends out an alert. What you can do otherwise is you can follow the Tsunami Warning Center on Twitter. If you have a Twitter, they're always posting updates whenever there's an alert out, or on Facebook. They will share those updates there as well. You can also subscribe to an email service via UNESCO/IOC. So if you want to subscribe, you can send your information to the email address listed below, and they will be able to alert you anytime there's a tsunami alert out. So in addition to that, the NWS Seattle also will send out alerts on Twitter and on Facebook, and Portland will as well. And make sure that you're following Washington EMD.
We also have the All Hazard Alert Broadcast Siren System. This is an outdoor tsunami warning system. Again, repeat, this is for outdoors. So if you are indoors, you will not hear these sirens. You will only hear them out near the beach or wherever they are near the coastline. These are operated by the State Alert and Warning Center, which will activate these sirens upon receipt of an official tsunami warning center from the National Tsunami Warning Center. And also, the locals can activate these sirens at any time. We test these monthly, and you will hear the Westminster chimes. This is the first Monday of every month. We also set off the warning, which is a whale tone followed by a verbal warning in English and Spanish. We set that off for the Great Shakeout, which is the third Thursday of every October. So if you hear the tsunami warning, the whale tone, and the message in English and Spanish to get to high ground, then get to high ground immediately. So these are placed all over the coastline, Washington State. We currently have 76 that are installed, that are active right now. We are also going to be installing 16 new sirens over the next year, because we got state funding to do this, to be able to fill the gaps. We do have an issue, though, for alerting for the Intercoast, Puget Sound and Salish Sea. Currently, the National Weather Service does not have forecasting or alerting capabilities for the Intercoast for a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, the big one, and or a distant tsunami, i.e. from Alaska or somewhere else in the Pacific Ocean. So what this means is that no NOAA weather radio broadcasts, emergency alert system broadcasts, or information on Tsunami.gov or forecasted wave arrival times will be either broadcast or available on Tsunami.gov for intercoast locations. But Washington Emergency Management Division will be sending out a wireless emergency alert message, tsunami warning, to the intercoast. And you can see for the intercoast, it's the red polygon on the right. So tsunami alerts. So you have seen this before, but I want to go over it again. So again, you have 4 different alert levels. You've got green, information statement, no action needed. You've got yellow, which is a watch. Essentially, there could be a tsunami. There's not an information yet to verify whether a tsunami is on the way, but get your go bag, stay tuned for more information, get ready to evacuate. You have orange, advisory. There is a tsunami on the way. It's a 1 to 3 foot wave. You're going to have strong currents and dangerous waves. Essentially, stay out of the water, stay away from the shore. The red, warning. This means that a dangerous tsunami is on the way. Wave heights 3 feet or higher, powerful currents, very, very dangerous. Immediately get to high ground or inland. So now I'm going to go through an example of a tsunami alert. So essentially, if you sign up to the Twitter text, or if you get this and see this in one of the various ways to get alerts, it will look like this. So important information here. You've got, this identifies the number in the series. Is this the first alert message, the second, the third, whatnot? So when you're looking at it, you can see which one it is. And also it tells you the date. But remember, this is in Alaska time, right? So calculate that. Also, you'll have major updates or changes to previous alerts. So essentially here you can see a tsunami warning is now in effect. The tsunami watch is now in effect. Now, if you remember, the National Warning Center will cover multiple countries, i.e. Canada, United States, as in North America, as well as multiple states. So there may be some areas where there's a warning, some areas where there's a watch. So this is why it tells you the different ones at the top. For instance, tsunami warning is now in effect for British Columbia, Southeast Alaska, etc. So you will see very clearly that this is where a warning has been issued, and then this is where a watch has been issued, i.e. Washington State. You can see there down below. So that will tell you where a warning has been issued and where a watch has been issued, or an advisory, if there's an advisory. Now looking a little bit more closely, so you've got your preliminary earthquake parameters here. So it tells you, hey, magnitude 8.0, what time it was. Now you can see Pacific Standard Time. You can see, where the earthquake was, how deep it was, location, whatnot. So this gives you the details on the event. And we go here. So we go into forecasted arrival time for the first wave. This is important to understand that they're still monitoring tide gauges and dart buoys, but they don't know whether a tsunami has been generated yet or not. This is really early in the event. Obviously, this is the first alert, so it would have gone out within 3 to 5 minutes after the shaking started. So you can see down here in Washington State, these are the forecasted sites. So we've got Neah Bay, Long Beach, Mo Clips, Westport, Port Angeles, Port Townsend. So this tells you that if a tsunami is on the way, this is the forecasted time for when that first wave is going to hit. Now you can see this is blown up a little bit more closely. So you can see Neah Bay gets hit first in this example, right? And you can see then where in the expected wave arrival times for the different areas as it's traveling down the strait and the outer coast of Washington. Okay, this is also now, we've gotten further into the event. and they've got enough information from the dart buoys and the tide gauges, and you can see here forecasted max tsunami height. So that will say, let's say for instance, Long Beach, it's the second one down, 4.4 feet, plus or minus 1.5 feet. So this kind of gives you the range of what that maximum tsunami height would be. Also, the forecasted tsunami duration. So this is the time where you're going to have waves going back and forth. And so here you can see the range and time where it's going to be dangerous. And of course, stay out of the tsunami inundation zone until you're told by local emergency managers that it's okay to go back to the zone. And then if there's observed tsunami heights, which we don't have on this example, but you'll see they will start populating what those observed heights are, if we have ones that are observed. Okay, so for local tsunamis, I want to emphasize this. The shaking is your warning, right? For local tsunamis, the shaking is your warning. So the first waves could arrive within seconds to minutes. For the outer coast here, Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, you're talking 15 to 20 minutes for the outer coast, right? Not a lot of time. So for local tsunami sources, you've got the Cascadia subduction zone fault, the big one, Seattle fault, Tacoma fault, South Whidbey Island fault, Devil's Mountain fault. So those faults are along Puget Sound, crisscross east-west Puget Sound, as well as the Salish Sea, and the Cascadia is out on the coast. So these are really the faults that we know of that could potentially cause tsunamis, the ones we're really worried about. All right, so the shaking has happened. It's a local event. First, you need to survive the earthquake, okay? Drop, cover, and hold on and protect yourself. I don't want you to get injured, break your leg, hit your head, so then you can't get to high ground. Please also go to shakeout.org/Washington. There's the Great Shakeout I mentioned. It's a great way to practice every year. So go sign up and register for this year. Thank you. Also, something important, do not try to run. Most injuries during an earthquake happen either people falling while they're trying to move during the shaking or being struck by falling objects. So an example, Christchurch. You'll notice the unreinforced masonry building in the top right. So the building did not collapse, but you can see how dangerous it is near the building where people would have either run out of the building or been running around. Very dangerous, so do not run. Also, here's an example in Mexico City, 1985. This is a school. You can see that it's pancaked, right? The only thing keeping the floors from completely pancaking together are these school desks. So there are people, if they had dropped cover and held on underneath the desks, they would have survived. So it could save your life. And this is a little video. It's going to walk you through the process.
The Pacific Northwest is earthquake country. We have thousands of earthquakes every year, but most of them aren't even felt. Earthquakes can't be predicted, but an earthquake early warning system called Shake Alert is coming soon. It's an alert that could give you seconds to minutes of warning before damaging shaking reaches you, so that you can take protective actions. You can survive an earthquake. Here's how. When you receive a Shake Alert, take action to protect yourself. Drop, cover, and hold on. Drop to your hands and knees. This prevents you from falling, but still allows you to move to a safer area if necessary. Cover your head and neck. If possible, take cover under a sturdy piece of furniture, like a table or desk. Hold on to your cover and remain in this position until the shaking stops. If there is no shelter nearby, get down away from windows or anything that might fall on you, and protect your head and neck with your arms. If you are near the coast, a tsunami may be coming. As soon as you feel it's safe to move, immediately grab your go bag and follow evacuation routes to high ground or inland. To avoid traffic jams and other hazards, go by foot. Do not drive. Be aware of dangerous obstacles that could be on your evacuation route, such as downed power lines and trees, landslides, and debris. Remember, when you receive a Shake Alert, protect yourself. Drop, cover, and hold on. Evaluate your surroundings, then get somewhere safe, and tune in to local media for more information.
And here's a video from the Alaska earthquake a couple years ago. Look how quick that was. Kids are great. All right, so remember, drop, cover, and hold on. Protect yourself. As soon as you can, get to high ground. And that tsunamis come in a series of waves. The first wave is often not the highest wave, so don't go back to the beach. Don't go back down into the water and take pictures. Get off the beach, stay away from the shoreline, get to high ground, and stay there until it's safe.
Hello, I'm Jacob Whitcraft. I'm the Tsunami Program Coordinator for the Washington Emergency Management Division with the focus on the Intercoast and Maritime. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the maritime hazards of tsunamis. I'm going to start here with talking about maritime impacts from one specific tsunami, Tohoku, in 2011. So in Japan, that was a local event, and for their maritime industry, they lost 28,000 ships, 319 ports were destroyed, and it cost their economy about $3.9 billion a day. In California, the same event impacted their coast as a distant event, and it caused over $100 million in damage to over 24 harbors. And some of those harbors were closed for over a year, and some still haven't recovered yet. Now in Washington, we have a very robust maritime economy, and we actually have 31 different ports that are at risk of tsunami damage, including the ports of Seattle and Tacoma, which together, they are the 4th largest container gateway in the entire United States. We also have the largest ferry system in the United States. We have 7 Coast Guard stations, 4 Navy bases, over 700 fishing and seafood processing operations, 400 private marinas, and it's a $37 billion industry for our state. So some of the tsunami hazards for harbors and boaters are strong and unpredictable currents, sudden water level fluctuations where docks and boats can hit the bottom, they can overtop their piles, or boats can actually be pushed right on top of docks. Tsunamis can create eddies and whirlpools. Tsunami bores and amplified waves can swamp boats and damage docks. They put a massive amount of debris in the water, and these dangerous conditions can last for 12 to 24 hours or more after the first wave arrival, which can impact boaters who choose to take their boats offshore. So what can you do if a distant tsunami strikes? If you're on the water, you need to move to a location that's at least 30 fathoms deep, and you need to stay at least a half a mile away from the shorelines. Avoid any areas with potential for strong currents. And if there's a suitable location, if a suitable location isn't reachable in time, you should dock your vessel and evacuate to high ground. If you're on land or you're tied up to a dock, you should definitely just leave your vessel and evacuate to high ground, which means you should know your evacuation routes and know that many distant source tsunamis are small enough that you can safely leave your boat docked, and that congestion in waterways and at boat ramps can be extremely dangerous. So what to do if a local tsunami strikes? If you're on the water, you need to stop whatever you're doing immediately. Free any bottom attachments, dock your vessel and evacuate to high ground if you're able to. If you're not, you need to head your vessel to at least beyond 100 fathoms. Be super aware of other vessels around you and try and avoid any areas for potential for dangerous currents. If you're on land, just evacuate immediately to high ground. You do not have time to save your vessel, and you could die trying. So what can you do after a tsunami? If you're offshore on the water, you should check with the U.S. Coast Guard for guidance before trying to return. And if you're onshore, you definitely need to check with your local authorities for guidance before you return to the inundation zone. Do not return to your local ports until you have firm guidance from the Coast Guard and your local authorities, because ports and marinas could sustain heavy damage and might not be safe for days, weeks, or even months. So what can you do? You should know your tsunami alert levels and have a NOAA weather radio on your boat. You should have enough fuel and emergency supplies on your vessel for at least 3 days at sea. And you should know the areas of dangerous currents to avoid and safe locations in open water. So one of the things we're trying to do here at EMD is develop a tsunami maritime response and mitigation strategy. Basically, this is just a tsunami response and mitigation strategy for maritime facilities specifically. It's designed for port or harbor scale decision making. And it differs a little bit from our existing tsunami response and mitigation plans, which focus on land-based response and mitigation. This actually focuses specifically on the maritime community and offers guidance for water-based response and mitigation activities. What's the goal of that? We're trying to develop this document to use as a template that any maritime facility can utilize. The strategy is a two-part document, with the first part being general guidance that's appropriate for anyone in the maritime community, and part two is port-specific response and mitigation strategies. This includes appendices with port-specific data, response checklists, inspection forms, other things that can be beneficial to them. And eventually, the goal is to develop a response and mitigation strategy for all major and at-risk ports in the state.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Tapero, and I'm a Tsunami Program Coordinator with Washington Emergency Management Division. And today I'm going to be talking to you about tsunami preparedness. So when we think about tsunami preparedness, hopefully you're asking yourself questions about whether you're prepared. Questions like, how will I know a tsunami is coming? How will I get alerted? What are my evacuation routes? Do I have a family emergency plan? Do I have a go bag? How am I going to communicate with the people I love? Those are all very important things to have planned ahead so that when that emergency or disaster strikes, you can put that plan into action. So one thing that we definitely want to emphasize is plan to be on your own for a while after a major disaster, especially something like a Cascadia earthquake and tsunami. A lot of our infrastructure may be damaged, and it might take first responders a while to get to your area. And so it's especially important that you are planning for these disasters on both kind of a local family level and also on a community level, because that's who's going to be banding together during that time. It's very important to have supplies at your home and also anywhere where you spend a lot of time. We kind of have two different kinds of supplies that we talk about. We have at home, like shelter-in-place supplies, and then go bags. And so at your house, in order to shelter in place, like many of us are doing right now, we want you to have at least 2 weeks worth of non-perishable food and water. And that's 1 gallon of water per person per day, which covers drinking, cooking, cleaning, anything like that. And if you can have more than that, if you can have 3 weeks or 4 weeks worth, it's great to have that on hand because you just never know. The other important thing that we want you to have and that you'll hear about a lot are go bags, which are basically bags that you're going to take with you for immediate evacuation, either to high ground or to a shelter or in some situation like that. And so it's important to have one for each member of your family. That includes kids, elderly parents, pets, anyone that you want to be prepared for. And then it's also important to have one of those anywhere where you spend a lot of time. So at home, at work, at school, in your vehicle. It's important that way if an emergency strikes and you're not home, you still have those supplies with you. So what do you put in your bag? It's really important to have water, food, anything that you're going to need to survive for a few days. And obviously you're not going to want to be carrying gallons of water with you in this bag because you're going to be needing to move quickly. So having something like water purification tablets or a water purification kit is very important. It's great to have things like a fire starter, non-perishable food, a can opener, some things that people don't always think about. And something I like to emphasize is having important documents, both scanned copies and then also having them on a flash drive with you. That way, if you're stuck in a shelter and you weren't able to grab your purse or your wallet and you're missing some of that identification, you've got those on hand. Also very important to have essentials for everyone in your family. So pet food if you've got pets. Comfort items are especially good for kids and for people of all ages, because then if you are stuck in a shelter, it can be very, very tough. And if you've got a teddy bear or a picture of your family or something that brings you joy, that can help that time move faster. So whatever it is that you need to survive for several days or even a little bit longer. It is also important to have sort of a mini go kit next to your bed. After nighttime earthquakes, the #1 injury in emergency rooms is feet cut by broken glass or debris, people who are jumping out of bed and then trying to exit their buildings. So it's great to have a little bag or a duffel bag tied to your bed or under your bed that's got a spare pair of shoes, a flashlight with batteries, maybe a jacket in case you're running outside in a cold Washington winter, and then a pair of glasses or whatever you might need in that moment to jump out. So great to have that just in case. It's also very important to have a plan for evacuations and to practice that plan. Evacuating will take longer than you think. So if you don't have that go bag packed, it's going to take precious minutes for you to gather all that stuff that you need and get it in one place. So having it already packed and stored in an easily accessible place like a front hall closet or something like that will buy you good time. It's also important not to waste time confirming alerts that you've received with secondary sources or with social media. So if you hear on your NOAA radio that there's a tsunami warning, don't then go checking Twitter. Don't call your friends and family and see if they got this too. That is your warning, and that's the time that you need to then be putting your plan into place. And absolutely important to practice your plan, especially in disasters where we're waking up in the middle of the night or we've had a lot going on. A lot of times your brain's not going to be able to remember something quite as quickly as it normally would. So it's important that that plan is basically an instinct for you. As you can see in the picture here, it's great to have community events where people walk their tsunami routes. That way you actually know, not just because you've looked on a map, but exactly which roads you're taking and where you need to go. There are also 2 house bills through Washington which require public schools to practice 1 earthquake drill per year and then 1 tsunami drill per year if they are in a mapped tsunami inundation zone. So that's a lot of schools on the coast are practicing both of those. And that's a great way for kids to understand where they need to go. And that's also a really good time to practice your family plan and figure out who are we calling and what are we gonna do. So very important to practice that. So I know we talked a little bit earlier about earthquakes and the shaking is your warning. So what if you could be alerted when an earthquake was occurring before the shaking reached you? So Shake Alert is coming to Washington State. The Shake Alert system detects damaging earthquakes as they occur and rapidly disseminates warning to end users. So the farther you are away, the more time that's going to buy you. And it may just be 5 seconds, it might be 30 seconds. But anytime you have to know that that's coming and to drop cover and hold is very precious. So our goal is for the Shake Alert messages to be available to the public starting in 2021 via both WIA and then also mobile phone apps that you'll be able to download. The other great way to practice your plan is to register for the Great Washington ShakeOut. The Great ShakeOut is the largest earthquake drill in the world, and Washington State had 1.5 million participants in 2019. It's the highest number we've ever had. It's always the 3rd Thursday in October, which this year will be 10:15 a.m. on October 15th, 2020, so 10:15 on 10:15. And this is something that everybody can participate in. So individuals, families, businesses, nonprofits, schools, local government, everybody is taking part. So you might take part at work and register there, and also register your family and register your kids when they're doing it through the school. Very important that everybody's taking part in this. So please register at shakeout.org/Washington and help us reach 2 million for this year. We also have a ShakeOut Youth video contest. It has 2 categories, middle school, so kids that are aged for grades 6 through 8, and then high school for kids who are aged 9 through 12. It has cash prizes for the 1st and 2nd place winners. And all they need to do is create a video that talks about what to do if there's an earthquake and that references ShakeOut. And you can see on our YouTube channel, EMD Prepare, the winners from previous years, and they are great. These videos are absolutely amazing. So definitely check those out once you're done. And then if you know someone who would be interested in taking part in this, definitely check out shakeout.org/Washington or pass that on to them. So are we next? We could be, and that's why it's so important for you to take action today. We also have something that's going on right now, which is the coronavirus pandemic. So right now we're urging people stay home, stay healthy. That's going to cut down on the number of people who are infected and help get us back to our normal lives as quickly as possible. If you have any questions, you can check out coronavirus.wa.gov. You can also call the Washington Department of Health's hotline. That is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. And so any questions you have or concerns, or if you're wanting to know how to help at the local level or higher, go ahead and check those out. So remember, you can survive if you get prepared. And here are some great resources for you.